Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Couch GMs podcast. It's Monday, September 8th, 2025. I'm your host, George Kurt, joined by the one and only Cody Roadcap. And it's nice still being here with you on a Monday.
Yeah, back to 2 times a week. And I have to ask, is this the new and improved form of a Couch GM sweep this week?
I think it is. We got a solid Packers win with a nail-biter Eagles win last week. We'll take them how we can get them.
I loved watching the Packers beat up on the Lions. I know it's week one. I know there's a lot of things that we're going to even ask, like, was this real? Was it not? Is this just typical week one? But to see Green Bay come out and beat the Lions the way they did, what a way to kick off the season.
A lot of crazy things happen that I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about coming up in this episode. So make sure you're tuned in with us, not only today, but Thursdays as well, Mondays and Thursdays at 6:30 East on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I didn't forget this time, Cody. You're welcome. And follow us at the Couch GMs on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok to get even more than you do from the show. Get involved with the comments, or you can even send us a DM with any fantasy questions you got. If we don't have a chance to answer anything on the show, we can always answer them in our DMs. I think we can get right into week one then, Cody. So what's happening? As with any week one comes the injuries. So why don't we start off there? Quite a bit happened during this. I think first off, actually, up until the Sunday night game, this is actually the first time that we had a week one that not a single player broke 30 points until Sunday Night Football since at least 2000.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think scoring, at least in the 4 o'clock games, it seems scoring was pretty rough. Balls were getting spread around, and there was, some solid performances, some shocking performances, but no one super dominant until we saw Josh Allen go out there and ball on Sunday night.
Typical Josh Allen, but yeah, it was definitely a rough weekend. Week one is always tough. That's why we always say you gotta, not panic. I mean, Jamar Chase had under 5 points. Amon St. Brown didn't do much. We'll wait to see what Justin Jefferson does. Saquon Barkley had a really good week in terms of those guys that you took in round one. But there was a lot of disappointment at the top of the draft and in the middle and in the late rounds too.
There was, and obviously we're not going to be able to hit it all, but if you have any questions about anybody, drop them in the comments. We'll answer as we go. And we'll start with injuries, starting off with George Kittle, who looked like he was primed to have a big day and then left with a hamstring injury. He was limping pretty good on the sideline, too. I was surprised to see. He's getting an MRI on that hamstring, and we'll give you more updates as soon as we get them.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough blow because he was one of those guys, not just because George Kittle's a great player, but he was one of those guys that you were going to bank on, rely on. You took him third round, maybe sometimes even in the second. If you were lucky, you got him in the fourth round. So he was definitely like a catalyst key point to your team. At least he didn't go out and give you a dud week. He still put up double-digit points in half-point PPR before he gets hurt. But an MRI does scare me with George Kittle. We've seen top players miss multiple weeks. It was just 2 seasons ago, Justin Jefferson with a hamstring missed like 7 or 8 games. Like, you'd hate to see that. You hope he can be back for a couple of weeks. But it's also not only when he's back, what are the chances of re-injury, and will it be nagging him rest of season?
Sorry, Neil. I mean, you think Kittle's your fault. It happens. And it's not that this is unprecedented for him either. Like, he probably could have been tight end 1 last year if he didn't miss time last year either. He was solid when he played, but missed, I want to say, 4 games last year. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it was something around that. So not something we were talking about in the offseason. You obviously can't draft for injuries regardless, but it's now something that we hope it's not a long-term injury. I think that Justin Jefferson missing 7 games is a good thing to bring up because, like, that's probably worst case scenario, but it's got to be within the realm of possibility because it seemed like a pretty major hamstring pull.
Yeah, I definitely have my concerns about George Kittle, but hopefully we'll get some good news. But unfortunately for the 49ers, that wasn't the only player that they are dealing with injury. Juwan Jennings also got banged up this week with a shoulder injury. He's also getting an MRI, and it is worth noting that they brought back Kendrick Bourne as of today with they've already been banged up at wide receiver, but just taking another hit.
Exactly. I mean, They're going to be down Ayuk for at least the first 4 games because he's on PUP. Ricky Pearsall had a solid day. That's exactly what they needed, and he's going to have to keep stepping up. They're just trying to find anybody they can that can play a position play that position at this point, and hopefully Jennings' injury is minor and he can come back maybe with a little bit of help in the next week or two.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see with Juwan Jennings, but even a bigger receiver that is got a little bit banged up, and I think the team really missed him out there. Was Drake London. He is considered day-to-day with a shoulder sprain. I think if he was out there in those final drives, the Falcons would have actually won that game. He wasn't able to be out there. It cost him, and he didn't have the big fantasy output that we were hoping for in week 1. But again, I think that was more understandable being week 1. But I am concerned now that he is a little bit banged up as well.
Me too. I mean, they honestly still should have gone to overtime. Younghoe Koo missed a fairly easy kick for him in the dome. So not a pretty start to the season for Atlanta, but it was a very competitive game with another team who should be fighting for a playoff spot in Tampa Bay. So it's not like this happened against a bottom feeder kind of team. But Drake London, I don't think he's going to miss time, but I actually personally enjoyed how their offense shifted for fantasy purposes once he was out, because we actually saw a little bit more Kyle Pitts. It's his year, if you haven't heard.
You want to hear a funny side story? We were watching Red Zone, getting ready for the Packers game. And of course, that one's going down to the wire. So you're playing the game of like, do you keep on this one? Obviously, I'm not missing the Packers game. So at 4:20, I'm switching over. No matter what happens, I'll get the updates on that one. But Kyle Pitts catches the ball, and my wife goes, "Who's that guy? He's tall." And I went, "That's Kyle Pitts. It's his year." So
it shows you how bad he's been despite all of the hype. When I know she watches a decent amount of football, she's like, "Who's that?" About Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, she's like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "That's Kyle Pitts." So
I honestly forgot he was number 8 until I watched this week 1 game. So along the same lines, like, it's been bad.
Yeah, maybe he'll get a little bit of a boost. Ray McLeod, he's another guy we're going to, because they don't have Darnell Mooney, so they're getting very thin at the wide receiver position as well. So Ray McLeod, I'm not saying I'm running out to grab him because London is day to day, but if you are in those deeper 14, 16 man leagues, I know we're doing waiver wires in a little bit, but he'd be a name I'd be looking at. Or even dynasty waivers.
Yeah, in deeper leagues. And also, I don't hate the idea of peaking at Darnell Mooney, because they were very cloudy about his injury outlook like 2 weeks ago. But then this week, he logged some limited participation in practice. They never put him on PUP or IR. So, like, I honestly think there's a chance he's back next week. Obviously, a little early to figure that out, but he's at least close.
Yeah,
and we're going to have a banged up London, and all they have is Ray McLeod. There's a good chance Darnell Mooney is going to get involved as soon as he gets back in there.
Yeah, and we will definitely keep you updated on his availability and some other guys on our Thursday show, because remember, we are live twice a week during the regular NFL season.
Yes, we are, Cody. Love to be able to throw that in there whenever you can. Why don't we move over to Denver? Evan Ingram left week 1 with a calf strain. Not a lot of info on him yet. We'll keep you up to date with him as we go, but a lot of people were hyping up that Evan Ingram's still going to be good going to Denver. I was a little concerned, and it was not even really pretty before he left either.
I think we're going to talk about Denver a little bit later, potentially, but I'm going to chalk it up to Denver just having some week 1 woes more than anything else. They played a pretty sloppy football game and still were able to come out with the win. Some might say that's their opponent, but I'm not ready to write off Denver based on that week 1 performance. Evan Ingram, it's a tight end. Throw it on the dartboard.
Evan Ingram gets demoted to the dartboard if you had him on the tier just above the dartboard. Congratulations. We'll see what happens with that one. The big tight end, Brock Bowers, he left week 1 with a knee injury. Apparently, I haven't seen the replay. I don't know if you have. People were looking at it like it really didn't look good. But apparently he wanted to get back in the game. Everything seems clear. And he says himself there's going to be no concerns moving forward. So obviously going to keep an eye on that practice participation. But it seems like he's going to be fine for next week. And he actually had a very good start as well, not shockingly.
The replay is not gruesome in any way, shape, or form. I have seen it. but it is 100% full non-contact. So I think that's why it gives so much concern. Not just like, okay, well, nothing happened this time, but is something loose now? Or, but I'm no doctor. I don't even know if that's how that works. But losing Bowers would suck. But I'm glad to hear that it is considered no concerns, at least from his accord.
I'd be shocked if they don't at least get him some kind of scan or something just to give them the peace of mind there in Vegas. But if anything comes up from it, we'll let you know on Thursday.
For sure. Speaking of tight ends, let's talk about Travis Kelce. Not that he got hurt, but he collided with Xavier Worthy, dislocating his shoulder. Now, there is reports that he's going to try to play through with the brace, but we saw on Friday that Chiefs team without Rashee Rice, without Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce just isn't at the age, speed, athleticism anymore to be the focal point, and they're missing something on offense. And it was just they were a tough watch. And I think it's going to be that way if Worthy can't go until Rashee Rice can get back.
It's true. And I think Worthy's definitely going to be back before Rashee Rice gets back. But the question is if he's going to miss time. It was an encouraging sign for the Chiefs to see that they finally got some, work out of Hollywood Brown. And we saw a couple of Juju Smith-Schuster catches as well. But like even those two just aren't the same that they were in the past. They really need Worthy and Rice to be healthy to make a run. But I'm interested to see now if they don't have Worthy this week. They are obviously down Rice for 6 weeks. They're facing the Eagles. It's going to be a tough matchup for them coming up here. The Eagles defense struggled against Dallas, but they're kind of emptied the tank.
Yeah, I think the only good thing is yes, you have Quinton on one side, but you have a big question mark for the Eagles, and we'll talk more about this on Thursday when we do the previews, that there might be some opportunities for a Juju or a Hollywood Brown on the other side just because of how big of a question mark that is. But none of them are hitting the waiver wires for me this week, even if they have potential to be wide receiver one with Patrick Mahomes, which is kind of crazy.
I'm sure we're going to talk more about it later, so I'll leave it there. Bookmark it. Go down to Tampa Bay. We had a great week one out of Emeka Egbuka. He had 2 touchdowns. But now we're also hearing Chris Godwin may begin to practice this week, so there's a chance he's back in either week 2 or week 3. That's going to be a fun wide receiver room for us to dissect once that actually happens, but need people to know it's on the radar if you're now going to go out there and try to rely on Emeka Egbuka going forward.
I am not worried about Chris Godwin quite yet. Unless something has changed, they took him off of PUP and said he's still not going to play in September. So
I don't get the point of that either.
I still don't understand the point of that, other than that he can practice and they can slowly bring him back. But Emeka is their future. They draft him in the first round. I like Chris Godwin replacing the Sterling Shepard role more than him replacing the Emeka Egbuka role.
It's just hard for me to believe that, seeing the contract he got in the offseason. I know they got him at a discount because of the injury too, but it was still a lot of money to dump into a potential wide receiver 3. I don't know.
But that's also a thing where like free agency happens before the draft. And now the guy you have rated as the best player on your board is available. I mean, literally look no further than last year in the Atlanta Falcons. They paid a boatload of money to Kirk Cousins, and they're like, wait, we can get Michael Penix here. He's still available. Too good to pass up. Maybe the Bucs saw it the same way, and Egbuka at least proved that he can play well. So Chris Godwin will probably have a game or two where he's the recipient of 2 touchdowns. But I think on a week-to-week consistent basis, and maybe that's me overreacting to week 1, preaching, not doing what I say by saying don't overreact, but that's kind of where I'm at with him. But I also was a big Emeka fan coming out too, so there might be some bias there.
No, after seeing how well he played in week 1, I think I regret not taking him more places because it's definitely there. I just worry that the inconsistency is going to happen. You have to think Mike Evans is still going to be the consistent safety valve. Egbuka, even if he takes that wide receiver 2 role, maybe there's inconsistency because they're working in Godwin. I don't know. They having all 3 of them on the field at the same time is going to be the best option for Tampa Bay, and it means there's going to be plenty to go around. It's just for fantasy tough to figure out where it's going to break some weeks.
I agree.
You talked about overreactions. We talked about how week 1 can be super unpredictable. Why don't we take a reality check? All right. What we're going to do here, we're going to basically react to week 1 in the form of questions, and you and I can kind of figure out where we stand on some of these topics coming out of the week. I'll want to start off with one I think you're going to enjoy. Are we concerned about the Detroit Lions?
No, but yes.
No, but explain this.
Nope. So, all right. So here's my reasons. I'm going to go a little bit both ways. Here's my reasons why to be concerned with the Detroit Lions. They were unable to score until late in the fourth quarter, a touchdown. They put up 6 points on a team that was very productive over the last 2 seasons. We've talked about their brain drain. Their lack of pass rush outside of Aiden Hudson is something that can be concerned by, both interior and the opposite side of the edge. And their secondary, especially at cornerbacks, getting banged up already. There's a lot of concerns, a lot of turnover, a lot of wait and see. The reasons why you shouldn't be concerned about the Lions. It's week 1. Aiden Hutchinson is first game back after a big season-long injury from a year ago. Now, I know there was talks that he was going to be ready and healthy and play in the Super Bowl if they made it, and he might have suited up. But he wouldn't have been the player he is now. But he still hasn't played football in a long time. He's going to get better. The Lions, it's going to take some growing pains to get used to this new offensive line. And the other part was, I think there is some parts of it that you have to give to the Packers defense. Jahmyr Gibbs caught the ball 10 times and was held to 33 receiving yards. That's crazy for the talent. Like, I mean, look at Bijan Robinson, the Falcons game. Really early in the game, catches a little dump off, takes the 50 yards to the house. That's the kind of things you expect from Jahmyr Gibbs. So I think they still have really talented pieces. I don't think Gibbs is going to be down all season. I don't think Montgomery's going to be down all season. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown will get it together. They just gave Jameson Williams a contract extension. They have good players. They have good pieces. They just came out in a tough situation going to Green Bay week 1, the week after they traded for a defensive all-star and Micah Parsons. Just a true storm of bad luck, so to speak. I mean, I don't want to take anything away. I think Green Bay is a solid team as well, but I think the Lions will be right back in the playoff mix as we wind down the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we underestimate how important consistency at the coordinator positions is too. And we talked about how they lost their OC and DC, and it could take time for them to not only have the coaches adjust to what they're seeing on the field against them, but have the defensive and offensive players learn the system to where it's like, oh, you can make a call like it's the back of your hand. You're not overthinking like, oh, this is the play. Am I supposed to be running this or this? Like, that takes time. And they have a lot of time in the offseason and training camp to put that together. But especially like when it comes to quarterback or defensive signal callers, like they have to be confident in what they're calling on the field. We've seen a lot of teams that have had coordinator changes that start slow. And we're also talking about they're facing a divisional opponent that you and I both had in the Super Bowl this year. So the competition coming out in week 1, it did not do them any favors. So I'm not concerned about them. But if this continues into week 3, week 4, you got to start feeling concerned.
Yeah, I mean, next week for the Lions is gonna be a big test. They have the game against Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears, right? So
2 divisional off the bat's tough.
And then week 3 is the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore on Monday Night Football. So, I mean,
did them no favors.
That could be like, even if the Lions start out 0-3, that would be tough for them. I mean, it would be. I expect them to beat the Bears. I do. I think they'll be 1-1 heading into that game against the Ravens. But maybe that Ravens game, again, it's on the road, but maybe that's more of a benchmark. All right, you've had 2 weeks to get ready. How are you going to see? But then they get the Bengals and the Chiefs to kick off October after a matchup with the Browns in between there. So like, and then the Buccaneers, like they have a gauntlet of a schedule, so they can't afford to drop too many because they just play so many good teams.
It's true, but then we're also going to look back to last year. I think the Lions situation right now, especially if they keep staying beat up on defense or like they just continue to struggle on defense like last year, are very comparable fit to where the Bengals were. The Bengals started off horrible, like they usually do, and they still came back and ended up a tiebreaker away from a playoff spot. So the Lions just need to be a little bit better than the Bengals were last year to start the season, and I think they're confident that they can make it into the playoffs, and that's a team that could make noise even if they're a wild card.
Yeah, maybe this is just me not doing as much prep sheet, and I should know most of this because the Packers play in the division. It's a very similar schedule, but their schedule is such a gauntlet. Even at the end of the season, like Thanksgiving is when they get Green Bay again. Then they have to go. They play Dallas, who looked good in Week 1, but then it's Rams, Steelers, Vikings, and then the Bears game to end out the season. So like they're going to have tough matches at the beginning of the season and the end of the season too. But I think they'll bounce back. I think they're a good team, but maybe, just maybe, there's a chance that it's going to take a little bit longer, and they're more of a team fighting for a playoff than looking to run away with a division.
In a tough division already, I wouldn't be shocked. I also feel like division winners in the NFC got a really tough draw this year, just with the way that everything broke out.
Yeah, and the North is a gauntlet in itself.
Exactly. So, not concerned yet about the Lions, but maybe we'll revisit this question in 2 weeks and see what happens after week 3. Moving to Seattle. Fantasy question: is Zach Charbonnet the lead back in Seattle?
I mean, he got the touchdown. Ken Walker didn't have the best game, this past week. Definitely was something worth monitoring for sure as we look at their, splits this past week. We had my page just jumped. I apologize. Charbonnet out carried him 12-10, had 47 yards to his 20, had the touchdown. Ken Walker did get 3 receptions over where Charbonnet didn't get any. So in terms of total touches, Walker had 1 more, but not the touchdown. So to answer your question, is Zach Charbonnet the lead back in Seattle? No. Welcome to a true 50-50 split.
Oh, that's probably worse.
Yeah, none of them are the lead backs. I think some, and maybe this is some of the week 1. Ken Walker was injured at the last season. Let's slow play him. Let's split it more early. Save Ken Walker for a later playoff round push. Teams will never admit to that. They want to win week 1. But I'm sure if you ask the Seattle Seahawks, although they did lose in week 1, they would rather have Ken Walker from weeks 9 through 17 than 1 through 9.
So maybe as a fantasy community, we get lucky because they start leaning on Walker more later in the season, as opposed to how they've been leaning on him early in the season, and we get a good fantasy playoff push. Maybe this is me being hopeful too. I have a couple shares of Ken Walker. I could see that.
Well, I have a share of Ken Walker where I went no running back strategy. Surprise, surprise. And then thinking, I can get Ken Walker here. That would be a solid running back option. And then to see Zach Charbonnet out carry him in week 1 was a little tough.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because I feel like you even talked about Charbonnet, and you said I think it's going to be a 50-50 split potentially. We had a comment come in. What I learned from week 1, never draft Gibbs in the first round. Speaking of 50-50 splits, I personally don't agree with this. Gibbs is going to get back to like having his, but they're still sticking with Montgomery.
They are. And I think some of that was just, they're always going to stick with him. They gave him a contract extension. But while I agree, we often overhype Gibbs. I love Gibbs. I liked him as the 4th best player in fantasy football this year, and I think he still has the potential. Remember, though, he saw 10 catches. It only turned into 33 yards. But those 10 catches is where he is going to make the bigger gap over David Montgomery. So, yes, the running splits might be similar, but Gibbs is going to be featured in the pass game. And I think a couple more weeks going forward, Gibbs will get back to that top potential. And like I said at the top of the show, you're probably regretting drafting Jamar Chase. You're probably regret drafting Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're probably regretting drafting, X, Y, and Z, at the turn and stuff like that. Puka had a really good day. Derrick Henry had a really good day at the end of the second round. Malik Neighbors had a pretty bad day. So he was a first round pick. Like, it's week 1. Relax. Gibbs a really good football player. and he'll help you win down the line. I'm certain of it.
If you play in a full PPR, Gibbs had a great day too. Even in a half PPR, he put up some decent numbers, but the 10 catches was kind of crazy.
Yeah, completely agree.
Let's go south. Are the Miami Dolphins the worst team in the league?
I don't know if it was just. I really don't know what to think of the Miami Dolphins. I thought the Colts were the worst team in the league.
And you're not alone. And I just want to throw this out there for the fans. We have a Survivor league that we run. You pick one team every week, can't pick them again. Cody picked the Miami Dolphins this week. He was the only person that got eliminated in week 1.
Out of like 59 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, in fairness, I forgot to make my pick, so I panic picked and tried to remember off the schedule off the top of my head. And I was like, ooh, Dolphins are playing the Colts. That sounds good. Hindsight, I probably wish I would have taken the Commanders. I probably actually would have taken the Bengals, but that one came down to the wire too, which would have had me sweating, but at least they won and I would have got to keep playing. But yeah, I don't know what to think of this Dolphins team, man. Tua looked awful. They couldn't move the ball. Achane at least got in the end zone to save his day in terms of fantasy. It still wasn't great.
Thankfully.
Tyreek Hill is celebrating his 1-year anniversary of not having a catch over 30 yards today. Like
Tyreek Hill, of all people.
It's crazy. Like this Dolphins team is just. I'm hoping there is a lot of week 1 to this, but I feel like we've also see this Dolphins team be very, either very high or very low. And I'm worried that this Dolphins team might be in trouble. And if they have too many more weeks like they had in week 1, again, not trying to overreact, but if they put up another performance like they did against the Indianapolis Colts, Mike McDaniel's not making it through the season.
No, he's not. And I don't think Tyreek Hill's on the team by the end of the trade deadline if this keeps going on.
He's a Kansas City Chief.
I was going to say we had someone in a group chat talking about that. And like, there's a good possibility because we just talked about how the Chiefs need receiving help. Tyreek Hill going back there would make sense. Obviously, if the Dolphins turn it around like they should, that's not happening. But he's got to be him to Kansas City's got to be one of the top, projected trade deadline trades, at least at this point. But we are always just like, as long as Tua is healthy, the Dolphins are fine. And this was a big red flag of like, maybe they're still not fine. So I'm concerned about the Dolphins. Maybe they're not the worst team in the league, but to have that much of an embarrassment against the Colts of all teams, and I can even ask, is Daniel Jones legit? I don't know about that, but he looked it.
Yeah. Currently, our quarterback 3 in terms of fantasy heading into.
We talked about low scoring week, but he still had a legit game.
Yeah, I mean that did save. Luckily he had the two rushing towns, but yeah, that was a crazy performance. And the Dolphins, they have to show me something against the New England Patriots this week, or like, I'm scared. I'm scared for my Dolphins players too. Like Tyreek Hill didn't do anything. Jalen Waddle didn't do anything. Yeah, Achane got in the end zone to save his day. Tua looked awful. Like tough look.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we're in a reality where Achane might end up being the only person who's actually startable, because he still had a couple catches, 55 yards, 20 receiving, and the touchdown. Like it wasn't pretty. The touchdown really salvaged it, but without the touchdown, he still scored almost 10 half PPR points. So it's not like he absolutely, just fell apart, but it's salvageable with him, unlike how it was with Waddle and Hill.
Yeah, I think that's worth mentioning. But we're talking a lot of doom and gloom. Let's maybe bring it up a little bit.
Okay.
But San Francisco 49ers, we talked about their wide receiver issues. Can we not worry about the CMC injury concerns after going full limited, no practice, and coming out with a full workload in week 1 and having a solid fantasy football day?
Yeah, he definitely had a solid fantasy football day. 18.7 and a half PPR this week. The full workload was the big thing. I personally am over all the injury concerns. I think I probably wouldn't have freaked out about it as much had we not had last year happen to us. And with him, not being injured and then being out for half a season and then having a season-ending injury after it. Like, it was super hard to keep that out of your head when you hear this whole entire thing happening heading into week 1. But the fact that he got through it seemingly fine, the 49ers need him because they're so banged up, and he's getting as involved as he is in the pass game. I'm taking injuries out of the question. If anything comes up later, we deal with it. CMC is 100% back in for me.
Little breaking news here. Good timing for the CMC conversation. So, an injured player for the San Francisco 49ers that we did not know about until today. It is not CMC, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts on how this does it. It is one Mr. Brock Purdy,
Oh,
a left shoulder and a toe injury that makes his status uncertain for Sunday's game in New Orleans. Kyle Shanahan said, and if he doesn't go, his backup is Mac Jones.
I mean, we've seen quarterbacks play in that system and be totally fine. So not that I'm like super concerned about Mac Jones also playing against the Saints, who probably actually are the worst team in the league. But the only thing that makes me feel better about this is he's not necessarily a rushing threat. Hopefully the big toe doesn't affect the mechanics too much, or whatever toe it is. And it's left shoulder. So you got to be concerned, like, is he worried about taking hits? Maybe. But at least it's not the throwing shoulder. Shouldn't affect his throwing motion. It's concerning if they think it's going to keep him out. I've seen plenty of other times where, quarterbacks injure something on the non-throwing arm or shoulder, and they're like, they'll play through it. It's just a pain tolerance. But I'm concerned a little bit.
We're sticking with the 49ers breaking news.
Okay.
George Kittle expected to be sidelined multiple weeks with the hamstring injury.
IR potential?
It did not say IR yet, but that multiple weeks would have to at least think the 4-week option is out there. That'll be something to monitor as we get all the way up through Saturday. But the MRI for Juwan Jennings' shoulder did come back clean, but the team is still waiting results for the CT. But it sounds like Jennings did avoid the worst. So I guess slight positives when it comes to the injury report for the 49ers, but that's definitely something to pay attention, as well as that team. It's going to be tough because if they're playing New Orleans, you're going to want to play those guys. But if you're telling me it's Mac Jones, no George Kittle, only Ricky Pearsall, only Christian McCaffrey, like that's a tough one.
Kittle and Purdy in a single week. What's up with the 49ers and all these injuries? I feel like teams just kind of go through, waves with this. Like, it's just concerning to me that this is now second year in a row that the 49ers have been dealing with this. We had Kittle down for a while last year. CMC missed most of the season. Their defense was obliterated last year. So to see it happening to him again, I don't know. Maybe something internally has to be changed. Maybe they need a little bit of a roster flip. But I'm interested to see what they say about Purdy coming through the rest of the week. We'll definitely have an update for you with that on Thursday. I think this spells even more good for CMC because Mac Jones and setting up the checkdowns and screens to CMC seems like a good thing. Some of those short range targets get opened up without Kittle. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Let's keep going through some of these reality check questions and say, are the Ravens ever going to stop choking in big games? Now, what a way to cap off the Sunday night slate with the Bills-Ravens game coming down 41-40. But I believe I saw for the 17th time in John Harbaugh's career, the Ravens have blown a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter.
I tried to look back and see if that is like the most of any team in recent memory. I mean, I feel like them and the Falcons have to both be pretty close. Yeah, no, I don't think they will at this point. And it just concerns me. Like, they've still closed out many games, but they've also closed out many games where they had that double-digit lead, and all of a sudden it's like they won by 3 points. I don't understand how it keeps happening to them. And I feel like if it happens again this offseason, I'm going to go back on my soapbox of Harbaugh needs to go, because I feel like it has to come from a coaching issue where, like, are they getting up and coasting?
or just getting too conservative,
Something.
taking. Now, granted, they have some of the worst luck. Like Derrick Henry's having an all-pro caliber game, fumbles late in the fourth quarter. Like you can't have that from your star players. I
You
get that.
can't, but they still need to just close that game out. They saw
Oh,
every
for sure.
opportunity to close that game out.
Yeah. It very, whether it was the unnecessary penalties or pass interferences, or, I mean, Josh Allen is one or two best quarterback in the league right now. And Lamar Jackson might be the other one that we're talking about in that conversation. So, like, when you have great quarterbacks, they make players around them. But there was a lot of, I'll be honest, that was not the game I was expecting, which I should have known when I said, I'm getting kind of sleepy. I'm going to throw this game on in bed, and then realize I should have not have done that because that game was about to get electric.
Yeah, we never count out a Ravens-Bills game, just like a Bills-Chiefs game or a Ravens-Chiefs game. They all tend to go to the wire, and I would have been surprised if that had not done that. I mean, I thought the Ravens were still going to pull it out because they had an opportunity, but no. Let's keep going here. We had a really good game also this week between the Jets and the Steelers, and two of the top-end fantasy quarterbacks, Fields and Rodgers, are Fields and Rodgers legit fantasy weapons?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, I think there was definitely a little extra pep in the step of Aaron Rodgers with the 4 touchdowns against the New York Jets after how all that went down with him over the last 2 seasons.
You can say the same with Fields, though, after getting benched last year.
Yes, you can. I was going to spin that around too. I actually have a little bit more confidence with Fields still in fantasy because of the rushing ability. I mean, Rodgers had a really good game, but he still got hit a lot. That Steelers offensive line has some concern with the amount he was getting hit. I know Quinnen Williams is one of the top interior defensive linemen. I believe he had at least 2 sacks. Will McDonald, he got a sack in there as well, and he's a up and coming edge rusher. So definitely some good players. Fields has the upside, and I think if they continue to be this run first team that just lets Fields throw, on play action, gets him in space, makes easy throws, I think he could be a solid option. And maybe for now, I'm going to still keep them both in the potential streams options, but I'll say Fields potentially becomes an every week starter.
I'm right there with you, so I don't have to dig too much deeper into it. Going to the other New York team, will the New York Giants ever score a touchdown?
After 3 straight years of opening the season, their opening game, not including a touchdown, they're going to have to, right? This is the NFL. But the fact that we are Monday after week 1 and already having to get to the point where Daboll has to say that Russell Wilson is their starter in week 2.
Didn't he not confirm it?
No, he did come out and confirm it.
He finally did confirm it. Originally, he wasn't confirming it, so everyone's like, Jackson Dart season already?
Yeah. More like Jameis Winston season.
I'm ready for Jameis Winston season. That's
Give
my
me
favorite
Jameis
season.
Winston, yeah. But yeah, the Giants will score, but they looked rough.
They did. They did face a legit opponent, though. So
It
can't forget that either.
does give me a little bit concerned. Like we thought Neighbors, I mean, this was what we saw last year, though. So I guess we're just in for another round of it. Some weeks are really good. He had 10, 12 catches. But like the touchdowns are going to be limited for him. So he's going to have to get the volume. And that's what was concerning in week 1. He didn't even get the volume.
That's true. A lot of question marks for the Giants offense moving forward. Going down to Jacksonville, is Travis Etienne back? 140 something yards in week 1?
I'm not ready to staple the ETN is back. Because if you told me Bashal Tutin had 140 yards next week, or Tank Bigsby had 3 touchdowns and Travis Etienne had 10 carries for 50 yards, like there was a rain delay in that game. There's still the unknowns about Liam Cohen. That's kind of where I'm at with him. He looked really good, and I hope for fantasy sakes we can get a consistent answer out of the Jacksonville backfield.
I hope so too. I was trying to, I wasn't quite fast enough. Pull up just what the running back splits were there. I'm not sure if you know them.
Not off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it was heavily favored towards ETN this week.
It was. I mean, 16 carries for ETN, 5 for Bigsby, 4 for Lawrence, 3 for Tootin. I think the reason that I kind of believe ETN might be back is we've seen ETN do it on an elite level before. Bigsby was okay, but never like really blew us away, and Tootin's a rookie. So I think if there's anybody you're going to try to bet on in that offense, it's got to be ETN.
I hear that. You get the rookie versus the veteran. I hear that argument for sure.
All right, one more fun one to get us out of this segment. Have we already seen the catch of the year?
I mean, it was the only thing the Lions can cheer about. Like, tops off to Isaac. That was one heck of a catch.
Isaac Tesla, if you guys have not, Tesla. I still already forget how to say it. I'm sorry. Tesla.
Like
okay,
coleslaw.
Cool. If you guys haven't seen it, go check it out on Twitter. Ridiculous catch for a touchdown already here in week 1. But
also, be glad that man didn't do any more squats, because if his butt was any bigger, it would have been an incomplete pass.
I mean, it feels comparable to me to the Garrett Wilson catch last year, where he was very similar. Like, I thought his, backside was down, but he got the feet in.
Yeah. So maybe skipping leg days a couple times a week, boys, will do you a little good.
Don't skip it too much, though. All right, Cody. We're going to talk back some more fantasy. Let's go take a ride on the waiver wire. All right. A lot of crazy things happened in week 1. Why don't we figure out who we can find off the waiver wire to help our teams? I want to start in Arizona with running backs, and I want to talk about Trey Benson, because Trey Benson stepped up despite us thinking James Conner was going to kind of be the sole guy there. And I'm trying to look at splits for them. Conner still did outtouch him 12-8, but much more efficiency out of Trey Benson. And I think he has a carved out solid role this year, which he didn't have last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think Benson is going to get his work. I think Connor's still going to be the red zone guy, which is, I think, is why it's going to give him the edge in fantasy. But if Benson continues to look the way he did, I mean, there's a reason he was near top 40 pick last year. Like, he's a solid running back. So I think he might slowly eat into this, but I do like James Conner's touchdown potential a little bit more.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Benson kind of moves into the potential flexible in good matchup. I mean, this was a good matchup here too, so you got to see that. Or he's obviously a solid handcuff now, seeing it if Conner ever does go down. But maybe not a ton of great options at running back this week, so he had to be someone who cracked into the waiver wire.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it would only be right to talk too about our listeners that play in fab leagues or whatever NFL budget point system they like to call it on that platform. I don't think there's any guy this week that I'm going out there and throwing all my fab in. I would rather look and see if there's any guys that should have been drafted that didn't, and maybe slipped through the cracks a little bit. But Trey Benson probably would be the top target for me.
I think so too, because running back's always a position we're trying to find fill, and I only have one more running back on my waiver list, and I'll just go to him now. It's Dylan Sampson. And as much as I think Dylan Sampson could be legit for 1-2 more weeks, that's probably it, because they did finally get Quinshon Judkins signed to the contract in Cleveland. I still expect him to be the lead back, at least at some point this season, or he's going to start working more into a split. Sampson didn't get as many snaps as Jerome Ford, but he was by far the better back, and they're going to have to keep him involved until they get Judkins in there up to speed.
Yeah, I think Sampson, I mean, he's a rookie too. They were taken very close to each other. He's there, but you have the concerns about Judkins. But on the other side, Benson, you're always going to have Conner. So you need the injury. Sampson might just end up being a better running back the rest of season than Judkins. He was drafted a little bit higher, so you think he's going to get the opportunity, but he missed so much time. Sampson might be in it for at least a couple more weeks, and maybe he has a couple good weeks, then you trade him off, kind of move right there.
That, and I mean, yeah, good point. You don't know if there's still going to be a split. moving forward beyond that.
For sure. Who's next on the list?
All right. Somebody you said you're not interested in, but had, I believe it was double-digit targets in week 1. Hollywood Brown. If we're going to see a limited or out Xavier Worthy, no Rashee Rice, number 1 target for Patrick Mahomes, I think still has to be on people's radar, even if we don't love that it's Hollywood Brown.
Yeah, I guess I would just throw out there too, like the problem with Hollywood Brown, what scares me is it going to be Juju Smith-Schuster? Is it going to be, they still got Justin Watson? Is it going to be Justin Watson? Or maybe Noah Gray's the guy I'm thinking of. One of those random guys that comes out of nowhere a couple times a year for the Chiefs. So that's the concern with me. If you want to take a flyer on one of them, Hollywood Brown or Juju Smith-Schuster. For me, it's a coin flip between both of those guys.
I think I would have said it was a coin flip going into this week, but after seeing 10 catches for Hollywood versus 5 for Juju, it seemed like he was the go-to guy once they didn't have Xavier Worthy. And then past that, Travis Kelce, maybe he'll have a week where he has 5 catches, but I'm not even starting to question that anymore. They had a couple of running back plays. Noah Gray works in occasionally, and then no more Justin Watson from what I can see, but it's Tyquan Thornton taking that spot now.
Yeah, I will say maybe I'm overlooking Hollywood Brown too with 16 targets. So
yeah.
If
so
I need
somebody I think at least short term can help you. But again, long term, when Worthy comes back, he loses targets. When Rice comes back, I feel like he might even be irrelevant.
Yeah. And I think the Worthy thing, if Worthy plays, is definitely going to be a tough, conversation. And do you like Hollywood Brown enough matched up one-on-one with Quinyon Mitchell this week? Like if you're picking him for a start, he gets the Giants the following week. So like that could be a good game. But
you say that, but I don't 100% know if Quinyon's going to shadow him. He was playing sides even last week with CD Lamb of all people being there. And maybe they just were trying to respect George Pickens. But like I don't know if he's a shadow a guy on both sides of the field kind of corner at this point in his career.
Okay. It's worth keeping an eye on for sure.
Yes. I want to move then wide receivers in LA with the Chargers because Quentin Johnston and Keenan Allen both had solid week 1s in that same exact game. Obviously, Ladd McConkey still had 6 catches, got his, didn't get in the end zone. Keenan Allen got in the end zone, 7 catches for 68, and Quentin Johnston got in the end zone twice on 5 catches and 79 yards.
Yeah, Quentin could catch on Friday night in Brazil. Let's see what he can do back on the stateside, but he's the younger guy. Keenan Allen's more reliable, like old reliable, I should say. So that's a tough one there. If you want the higher upside, take Quentin Johnston. If you need a spot start, I think I would lean Quentin out or Keenan Allen, not Quentin
Allen. I just don't like Quentin Johnston with his drop history. And I mean, obviously maybe he's gotten over it, but I think he still did have a drop in this game, if I'm remembering correctly. So I'm still leaning Keenan Allen being my primary guy, I think, after like looking back on it on the waiver wire, but Johnston does have the upside because we still, maybe haven't seen the best of him.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because the next guy on the list is Calvin Austin. As another wide receiver. So there's kind of the 4 wide receivers on the list. There's Hollywood Brown, the 2 Chargers, Calvin Austin.
Yep.
Which one do you like more long-term? And which one do you like if you need a spot start this week?
I have not looked at schedule for week 2, so I'm going to try to peek at that while we're talking here. But just thinking workload long term, I'm going to go with Calvin Austin. He's seems to be their pretty clear number 2 in Pittsburgh. He's got Aaron Rodgers, who at least started the season great. If we end up having even somewhat vintage Aaron Rodgers, he can definitely support 2 receivers, and that would be DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin. So, and he's a big play threat. So I don't think it hurts then, because maybe he does have a game where he only has 3 catches. He's still got a chance to take one to the house. So I think long term, I'm thinking Calvin Austin. Next week, they got the Seahawks. We have the Chargers against the Raiders. That's not a bad matchup, but that late Monday night game. So if you want to take somebody in fantasy to the brink, you can take them that 10 o'clock Monday night game next week because we love Monday night doubleheaders here. And then who was the other guy? I'm sorry. Hollywood Brown against the Eagles. I would probably, in a spot start next week, either take Hollywood Brown because of how many targets he got this week. Not that I love the matchup as much. Or I would go Calvin Austin because they're 3 mouths to feed with the Chargers instead of 2 seemingly elsewhere.
Although Ben Skronik did catch the first touchdown for Rodgers. Just throwing that out there as a little devil's advocate. Yeah, I think Hollywood Brown would be like the flyer option for me, and then Keenan Allen would be my safe spot start.
I was debating between saying Keenan Allen or Calvin Austin for next week. But I think long-term, I'm leaning Calvin Austin.
All right. Before we hit our tight ends, let's do a couple fan questions here that they are coming in. One from YouTube, one for Twitch. So as always, thanks for listening. Someone says, I got $20 to throw away. Any tips for tonight games? I feel like the Bears will do fine. Did you talk about today's game? Yep. We always end the show with the game that we're about to see, just in case someone's listening to this on tomorrow or Wednesday. They don't have to listen to a game that already happened. But $20 to throw away. I mean, I haven't looked at some numbers or parlays, but
do you want to table this for the Monday Night Preview if you don't mind over there on YouTube?
Yeah, we can do that.
Cool.
And then the other question, trade question. So he's conflicted. He can get Taylor. I believe that would be Jonathan Taylor and Ricky Pearsall if he gives up David Montgomery and Brian Thomas Jr. His other receivers are Juwan Jennings, who is a little bit banged up, Travis Hunter, and Hollywood, guy we just talked about in the waiver wire. And his RBs are Benson, Genty, and Brian Robinson. Now, this is a 14-man league, so some of these names might sound a little deeper because they are.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it really comes down to Brian Thomas versus Jonathan Taylor for me.
Mm-hmm.
And you already have Travis Hunter too. So like you would lose one Jaguars receiver since you have both.
Yeah. Let me jump in. So I think I like Brian Thomas better than anybody else in the trade, but I think I would take the Taylor Pearsall side. I know it doesn't feel great getting Pearsall and Jennings on the same team too, but you're already dealing with having Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter. So I still think you're upgrading going to Pearsall, and I think I'm more and more convinced as the offseason and week 1 has gone on that Pearsall could be legit this year. And then I like the consistency of Taylor over Monty. So I think you'd be trading away the best player in it, but I think you're balancing yourself out and getting a legit number 2 running back to pair with Genty by making the trade.
Yeah, I can see why you're conflicted because I'm conflicted too thinking about it. I think George makes a great point about you're giving up the best quote unquote player, but you're getting back a solid value. It helps diversify your team as well. And then, I mean, your other 2 running backs are also currently backups, whether that's Trey Benson or Brian Robinson. So,
I mean, right now he's starting Genty and Monty. I think Genty and
another
Taylor
backup.
is a good step up. Yeah, technically you're right. That is another backup. I don't view him that way typically because of how many carries he gets, but you're right. You're right.
So, I think I tend to lean with you. The value there of getting both those guys, especially knowing what we know now about Kittle missing some time, Jennings a little bit banged up. Now, does this change your mind at all if the quarterback's Mac Jones?
Because it's short term, no.
Okay. Alrighty, let's finish out these waiver wires, then we'll get back to that question in a second when we talk about the Monday night preview.
Cool. I'll just rapid fire our 2 tight ends we have left here. So first off, we have Brenton Strange, just because, I mean, he didn't have a great week 1, but again, in Jacksonville, they used the tight end a lot last year. I think there's a lot of value to be had. He's at least somebody to keep an eye on the dartboard. And then the other one I have on here is kind of with an asterisk, and it's Michael Mayer. If Brock Bowers misses time, it seemed like Michael Mayer got involved. He could be a guy to stream for a week or 2. But we're hearing that Bowers is probably going to be okay. So maybe that one's irrelevant. I wanted to throw the name out there just to keep him on people's radar.
He's definitely worth the ad. this week. Again, if you're in a FAB system, I wouldn't give up too much money for Michael Mayer.
I would probably even just throw a buck or two, and if someone wants to spend more, cool.
Yeah, unless between the time that you're listening to this and your waiver wires run, you hear Brock Bowers going to miss a week or something like that.
Yes, agreed. But that's all I got on the waiver wire. So do you want to jump into Monday night?
Let's start talking about this Vikings-Bears game.
All right. So do you want to get right back to our question here, actually?
Sure. Well, let's throw that back up there.
Okay. So again, $20 to throw away for tonight's game. Feel like the Bears will do fine. I agree. I think the Bears are intriguing, especially playing against JJ McCarthy in his first career NFL game. I mean, it's not a rookie quarterback, but it might as well be a rookie quarterback. And the Vikings defense is a big question mark coming into this year too. I know, Cody, you were talking about a few weeks ago how their secondary has been banged up, or they don't have a lot of guys on their roster, at least at that point. So this is the perfect time, at least in my mind, to see this Caleb Williams break out. And all of a sudden, if there's a little bit of a sputter on the Vikings side, the Bears could pull one out here.
Yeah, that's definitely one to watch there. Now, it is only a 1.5 point spread, which always takes up. So, I mean, you said you have some time to kill. And again, we're not financial experts, anything like that. You got to bet responsibly, 100 gambler if you gamble too much. But we have friends that gamble. We like to throw some dollars in there. I always like looking at first touchdown scores. That's always a fun one for me. It gets me a little bit excited. And for those, I think you have to look at DeAndre Swift. Maybe even take a flyer, put a couple dollars on DeAndre Swift, take a flyer on like a Colston Loveland. I think that would be a fun, high risk, high reward kind of bet there. Or maybe build yourself a nice little parlay when it comes to, maybe you think Jordan Mason will have a couple more rushing yards over Aaron Jones, or maybe you don't. Maybe you think Aaron Jones is going to be the guy. Maybe you think Caleb Williams is going to break out. Maybe you think JJ McCarthy's going to have a really good game. That's kind of where you have to go when you're making those decisions. It is worth noting that the Vikings left tackle Christian Darrisaw is not going to play this week. He's probably their best player along the offensive line. I know the Bears defensive front isn't, the scariest, but they still have Montez Sweat. They still have some other pieces. Can they rattle JJ? Will be definitely something that I'll be paying close attention to.
I'm shocked to see, looking at this, that DeAndre Swift is actually the top odds for first touchdown score, not even Justin Jefferson. Doesn't hurt to throw a couple bucks on it if you're really confident in it, because then it'll pretty much counteract whatever other bets you make. Personally, I don't mind throwing the flyer dollar or two on Colston Loveland, because I think he could be very involved, and he's at a plus 2,000 for odds. I think my favorite, looking at this first touchdown bet, is DJ Moore. And I'd have to look deeper. I don't know how many receptions over under it is for Justin Jefferson, but I think I'm taking the over, because I think it would be ridiculous to see JJ McCarthy go out there in his first game and not just be trying to feed Justin Jefferson. So I'm very confident on him, even if I think I would take the Bears plus the 1.5. I might even take the money line if I'm feeling a little more it's a point. It's not that big of a deal, but I still think Justin Jefferson's pretty safe lock tonight.
I like the Justin Jefferson, and this is one of the perks of having two people on here is I would tend to take the Vikings and not the points with the Bears. So that's just my thoughts on this one, but good luck if you have on your happy gambling, or if you have any fantasy players left, good luck with those as well. George, how did you do in week 1?
Absolutely horrible.
Solid.
Just to lock up how well my week 1 went in fantasy. James Cook had that 50-something yard reception in the beginning of the fourth quarter. If he got that into the end zone, I won a league. He ended up scoring nothing the rest of the game. I lost it by 4.
Nice.
That's just a wrap up, just a really quick and dirty wrap up of how my week 1 went.
My week 1 is kind of in the middle. It could be a good week depending on tonight's game. It could be a bad week depending on tonight's game, but it's week 1. We live and learn.
I'd almost rather lose week 1. Give yourself a little bit of a better waiver if you're playing in a waiver system, not a fab. And I think we've seen so many trends, which is why we were talking about this week, that week 1 doesn't normally match the rest of the season. So maybe you got it wrong week 1, but I feel like you might have it right by the time you get to week 3 and 4. But stay fluid out there if you're a fantasy player.
Absolutely. Well, George, I think we just hit the 1 hour mark. So that is the cue for us to get out of here. Wrap up this episode. Reminder, we're live. No, we're not live there. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You can follow us on social media at the Couch GMs on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, all those good places. If you're on one of those, make sure you hit subscribe. We love having fan questions. We love chatting about football. It was a great week 1. Glad to have football back. Excited for Thursday. Matt, we'll talk to you next.